How does your plan to end the war in Iraq ensure the safety of U.S. troops, the survivability of the Iraqis, the stability of the Middle East, and the enhancement of U.S. prestige in the rest of the world? Senator Biden.
Thank you very much. Let me say two things. One, obviously we have to protect our troops. And the fact of the matter is, folks, the only way to do that is give them the equipment that they need while they're there. That's why I cannot understand how we can't fund the troops while we're there. Secondly, I believe we have to disengage American troops from the Civil War. We have to take them out of the Civil War. We have to redefine their mission, begin to draw down the combat troops immediately. But thirdly, we have to have a solution that allows us to leave some stability behind. So not only do we get our sons home, but I don't have to send my grandson or granddaughter back. And the bottom line to do that is to abandon the idea of a strong central government, have a federal state, which the Constitution calls for, get the international community to support that. I introduced that a year and a half ago. Last week, or 10 days ago, 75 United States senators, including my good friend, he is my good friend, voted for that approach and that solution. I believe that's how we can, A, get our troops out of harm's way immediately. B, begin to draw them down immediately. C, put the Iraqis in a situation where when we leave, which we must, there is some stability left behind. And the only way to do that is separate the parties, let them have breathing room within their own sections, let them have the ability to control their own security and every other aspect of their daily lives with a limited central government. That's what the Constitution calls for. That's what 75 United States senators are doing.
Senator Dodd.
Well, thank you all very much as well. It's a pleasure to be with you. This is the critical question. The first responsibility of an American president is to keep our country safe and secure. The second is, of course, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. I would argue very strenuously that our continued military presence in the middle of the civil war in Iraq is making us less safe, less secure, more vulnerable, and more isolated. It is time we recognize that fact, and as much as I worry about what happens in Iraq, I believe there are other means by which we can help stabilize the situation. But I think it's time that our military forces plan on redeploying out of Iraq and begin that process soon. I was rather stunned the other night in the heart of the Dartmouth debate when three of the so-called leading candidates were asked a very simple question, I thought. Would you guarantee that at the end of your term, the first term in 2013, that we would have our combat troops out of Iraq? I found it rather breathtaking that three of the so-called leading candidates would not make that commitment. I will. I want to have our troops out of Iraq. I believe we're doing a great disservice to them, to our own country. We're hurting our reputation around the world. We move a brigade and a half out of Iraq on a monthly basis. I served in the military, the National Guard, and the Army Reserves. I was also a Peace Corps volunteer in Latin America. I have some understanding, some idea of what this involves. But I truly believe that the longer we dig this hole for ourselves, the more difficult it's going to be for our country to reassert its leadership around the world. I believe that every other foreign policy matter we're grappling with is deeply affected by our continued military presence in Iraq. It is a civil war there. There never has been a military solution, only a political one. The Iraqis need to understand it is now their responsibility. It's time that our troops came out of Iraq.
Senator Biden, do you have any additional comment?
Yes, I would like to, Chris and I were the only two on that stage that night, three on that stage, that said we would get the troops out of Iraq. There's no political settlement. I would pull them out. I would not leave a single troop in Iraq in my presidency in the midst of the Civil War. What bothered me, quite frankly, was the three candidates who said, unlike Chris, who said he'd get them out, and his vote is consistent. The other three said they're going to keep them there until the end of their first term, and yet they voted against funding those troops. I find that inconsistency breathtaking. How can you say you're going to keep troops there through your entire first term and not fund them being there? Chris has been consistent. I respect his position, and we're not really that far off, quite frankly.
Final word, Senator Dodd.
Well, again, and my view on this obviously is much more than ours. We fund secure and safe redeployment of our forces. Here we have huge facilities in Qatar and Kuwait. We have needs in Afghanistan. We need to use the robust other tools in our arsenal as a nation. Military force is an arrow you draw out of your quiver. Everything else is fake. We've not been using the other talents and abilities we have as a country to bring about satisfactory results in Iraq. I would restore the robust diplomacy, robust political, robust economic influences we can bring in that region to try and stabilize the question here. I do not rule out before some long-term issues here, military involvement back in the region, but that's not where you want to go. That's why I strongly urge that we call this what it is, and that is the military solution must end in Iraq, and I would do so sooner rather than later, certainly not 6 or 7 years from now. That I found rather incredible.
Thank you, Senators.